afternoon, everyone. As I introduced myself, I'm Sam Ferguson, the board president this year. Welcome to the July 6, 2020 board meeting of the Port Authority. And it's the first one we've had in about three and a half months. There are a lot of little things we're going to try to go over tonight, but I don't want to burden you. I don't think Jim or Marianne or either one of want to burden you with a bunch of little stuff, but we'll try to get the major things done, and then we'll just slowly move on. We have a couple important things to talk about, and I welcome any comment you have. One of the procedures we have here is when you want to talk about something, whether it's on the table or not, when you want to talk about it, just get the chair's attention. Get something like this or something like that, and we might be in the middle of something, but I'll get to you. That way we can keep a little bit of order to it. And I promise, everybody will get a chance to talk on everything. We work under what Indiana law says is an open door policy. We can only meet officially when we have at least a majority of board members, 4 board members at least. If we don't have that in any kind of get-together, emails, telephone, none of that stuff. We can't do it unless we're at least 4. It's a little more complicated, and if we need to get into that, I'm sure Joe will explain it to us, but that's the big thing. And that's probably why we haven't been able to communicate a lot of stuff to you that we're going to talk about. It's not that we're keeping it secret, it's just the way Indiana law is. Okay, got questions on that, we'll deal with that. The only other thing I just wanted to touch base on, and this is my interpretation of what the board does here. Obviously, we have a Harbormaster, we have an assistant Harbormaster for administration, and we have an assistant Harbormaster for operations. He's not here today. His name is Dan Hepp. But the board does a lot of things. But what I envision is that the board does not micromanage Jim and his staff. We are overseers and we are visionaries. We look to the future and we kind of keep an eye on things that are going on and talk about some of those things. But we don't micromanage everything that happens in here. The board is the staff is well qualified to do what they do, and we think they do a pretty good job. That's what I wanted to talk about to kind of get the ball rolling. We need approval or correction of the minutes of our last meeting, which is March 2nd, 2020. I don't know if anybody's really had a chance to look at those.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion on the floor a motion and a second to approve the minutes. I'm sure you've got them in your packet if you didn't already see them.
I did not put them in the packet.
Okay, they're not in the packet. Can you send those out to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and approve those. If you have any questions once you see that, we're going to take a vote to approve them. If you have any questions later on after you view them online, bring them up the next meeting and we'll make amendments to those minutes. It's all right. Any
Mr.
questions?
President, I think only the people that attended that meeting would be able to vote to approve those meetings.
Okay, so say it one more time.
Only the people who attended the meeting would be entitled to vote to approve the minutes.
Good point. 1, 2, the 4 of us were here. Okay, so the 4 of us were here. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Okay, they'll be online. Obviously, this is different for all of us, being outside. I'm a little hard of hearing. I've got my hearing aids up pretty good, but sometimes I don't catch everything, and you'll understand when that happens. Next on the agenda is a report from the Harbormaster. Chip?
All right. Since last time, we upgraded our Wi-Fi network outside here. Previously, we had a combination of older antennas and a couple newer antennas. This spring, we replaced all 6 of the older antennas, So now we're running all the latest Cisco Meraki Wi-Fi units, and we've had mixed results with that. So City IT and Meraki continue to poke around on it, and we have a couple ideas why some people aren't able to connect to it. It seems that one of the problems is when we put the new radios in, they're more powerful. So they put out a stronger signal. Well, the end user then, the person in the boat, they can see the Wi-Fi network, but their laptop or notebook may not be strong enough to talk back to it. So I don't know quite how we're going to sort that out, but that seems to be the biggest problem at the moment, that people can see the network, but they can't get onto it. And we think it's because we've got a more powerful radio now that can reach further, but your device, you can't reach back. All right. We also, coincidentally, we have our barge sitting here, and I thought this would be an interesting thing to point out. Normally we offer a weekly pump out for anybody that wants it. We come around to your slip and we pump out the boat, and they sign up for that. They pay for that service. And normally we would push this cart up and down the dock, and that cart only holds 45 gallons. So you go out to the end of the 800 dock, you do 3, maybe 4 boats, and then you push it all the way back to the front of the 800 dock, and you dump it, and you walk back out there and pick up where you left off. So we were trying to figure out how could we do a bigger tank. Well, the trouble with a bigger tank is it's harder to push. So then we thought, why don't we put a big tank on our barge and go around by water and just pull the hose up onto the dock to do it at each spot. The other problem this solves then is normally with the cart, you got to find a place to plug it in. Sometimes there's an empty outlet, other times you have to unplug somebody's boat and plug it in. And where that fails is depending on who's doing pump out, they forget to put the boat back in, and then the batteries go dead or what's in the refrigerator goes bad. So we have a generator on this barge so we can run the cart from the barge and dump into the big tank. So we tried it last Tuesday and we cut 2.5 hours off the time it took to do all the pump outs in there. So now we fill the tank. Well, we don't even fill the tank. We got about 460 gallons last week. Then we pull up to the gas dock and we let the big pump at the gas dock pump the tank down. That still takes about a half an hour, but we were finished by 11:30, and normally we're not done till after 2 o'clock, and we started at 7. So that was a pretty big improvement. Since it looks like it's going to work, we added a longer hose. So now the plan is to just go down one side of the dock and reach across to the other side of the dock. We'll see how that works. What I would like to do, if that works, for the next improvement, we're going to take the cart off here altogether and pick up another pump like we have at the gas dock. That's a bigger pump. This one pumps out at most 18 gallons a minute. It's between 11 and 18 depending on the length of your suction hose. The pumps at the gas dock pump out at 35 gallons a minute. So we're hoping we can cut the time at each boat down by using a stronger pump. And with the 150 feet of hose on there, we're thinking the bigger pump will do a better job with that. So that's what's going on with that. And then the one other thing I'll touch on, this spring we had about 23, 24 people decide to cancel because of concerns about the coronavirus. And in talking to some of them, the way we do cancellations is you guys that have a slip are familiar with this. You put in a $200 deposit in November, and then half is due in January and the other half is due in March. And between March and April 1st, you can get all of that refunded except for that $200. After April 1st, since this year officially we were open, we started prorating the balance. So if you wanted a refund at the end of April, we charged you for a month. June 1st, we stopped doing refunds altogether. And then July 1st, we cut the slip rates by 25%. And August 1st, we cut them by 50%. And then in November, we're looking for the $200 for next year. So in talking to the people that were concerned about the coronavirus, most of them were okay with that. A couple asked if there wasn't some consideration we could give them because of the coronavirus. So we're going to try to put them back in their slip next year, assuming they come back. But we thought it would be a nice gesture if we took their $200 deposit that we did not refund them and apply it to their slip for next year. And I told them we would bring that up at the board meeting and get your guys' opinion on that. We're only talking about $4,200 or $4,400 in the big scheme of things. It's not a big deal. We would not refund any of the prorated amount or anything. They were all pretty much okay with that. So I'll leave that as a recommendation on my point. That
And that's just an adjustment to our regular policy that's been in there for quite a while.
Right.
And it's just, as I remember, you're suggesting that that's just for this year. For the
it would just be for this year at this point. We'll see what happens between now and next year, but I don't want to go too far ahead of the game.
Okay.
So that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
And that would only be a credit.
Right, it'd
That
be a
wouldn't
credit.
be a-
We're not actually going to give them money back. We'll just credit their account for the deposit in the fall.
Before we open that for credits, I'm going to ask Joe, do you have any concern if we would do that as a one-time thing this year, credit the 22 people? You know,
I don't foresee any
Yeah,
problems
we
with that.
didn't- we
As Marion
didn't
said, it
either.
would be a credit, not a refund.
yeah. Okay. Did you? The three of you are kind of new, and you might be hesitant to speak up. This is a PR gesture on the part of the board, and it's something we're thinking it's an appropriate thing to do. We usually get a few questions. Danny, usually you have a good comment to make on something like this. Do you see anything on this? I don't think you were aware of it.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing that. And I think it's only fair, and it's a great camaraderie for us to do that to our.
Yeah. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
That's good. I was going to raise my hand anytime.
okay.
The only question, maybe if they don't come back the second year,
Then they don't get
it's
it.
no longer a refund or
No, it's like the only credit.
Would we
Amanda?
put like they have till like November 15th to let us know if they're gonna for sure come back and then they forfeit a refund?
We can do that.
I just think it'd be good to put a time on it, so in case we get any new people, especially with I think South Haven, they lost a bunch of slips, so I think we could, if
A
we
lot.
mark it the right way, we could get a lot of people coming down from South Haven. So I want to,
Right.
just see where we go with that in a couple
Okay.
months.
Was there some way you were thinking to notify
We
notify
know
these
who all the
22?
people are, so we can email
You
them.
let them know ahead of time?
Kristen's got a list.
Okay. Any comments? Yes.
Well,
Chuck.
you don't know Andy Hardy, because you know Andy Hardy, what happened to him. He got in that accident. He won't be able to vote this all season. Both I didn't vote out the water. He's brought it up and made like about 50 credit for next year because he's physically unable to come. I mean, he got hit by somebody in the spot there. And I said I'd bring it up. That's what the form is.
Yeah, well, that's kind of up to you guys on.
I didn't catch all that. It's something that you guys need to talk about in the staff.
I think it's a decision you guys would have to
I just didn't catch it all yet. I'm sorry.
Well, Andy can't come back. He can't. He's still on laying on a couch.
Okay.
He won't be allowed to go out here all season. You know, he's the person. He's a contract. Yes. So he asked me about that. I said I can't give you the answer on that, but I'll bring it up. He'll have to bring it up.
Is his boat still in the water?
No,
So it's an empty slip.
it's empty.
If he asked for a refund, you know?
He said he asked somebody, but I'm not sure.
I mean, we've never,
He
as
said
far
he
as
wanted
I
to
know,
refund
we've never
credit
done it
next year.
before.
Joe?
Well, I certainly think the board has to think long-term about this. If it starts granting exemptions and refunds in circumstances like that, then are we going to establish a policy? I mean, it's unfortunate that he was involved in an accident, but I mean, if we've sold the slip, can we resell the slip? If we do that, how many slips are we going to lose if we do that?
Okay. How about if we send this to committee, kick it around? Seems like it's more on our operations, anything else? And we'll get together, we'll get back to it. How's that? Fair statement? It doesn't seem like we have a lot of
Consideration.
yeah, okay. You have that down?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Tim's talked about this this one-time adjustment of these 22 people. Don't have any questions right now. Is there a motion on the board to accept or deny or anything?
Motion.
Make a motion to accept this policy as read. I think I saw a second from Chad. It'll take me a while. All right, any more questions
No, I
on this?
think, no, it's okay.
Do we have any more questions on this? No more questions. All those in favor of accepting this policy that will cost us about $4,400 one time?
It's 23 people.
23 people, 46, probably 4,600. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? All right. Anything? I'm done. Anything for Tim right now? All right. Mary Ann, report from for administration.
Okay. Inside your package, you'll see that we had 106 cancellations, and that's including the 23 COVID ones. And we had 131 new customers this year.
These are reports that we normally get like once a month or so.
Yeah, you'll get these reports almost every meeting for you. What else is in the packet? Our bills and payroll are up to date. The details of the bills of the 4 sheets that you have on front are inside your packet. If you have any questions, just email me or call me on any of it. Right now we have about 15 open slips and they're 35 foot. Everything else at this point is filled up.
Okay. I think you've only handed out bills for about half of them.
About for half of them, because I didn't want to give you a big stack to take home and look at.
Right, so that's
So
3.5
they'll be
months.
next
These are
meeting.
the most recent.
Yes.
The most recent 4 sets of bills, and they total roughly a $250,000 in expenses, which is.
And the petrol van, which was like 30-some thousand, is the fuel bill for the gas stop.
Okay. So, not trying to overwhelm you, but also I don't think you want to look through a lot of extraneous expenses yet. They've all been approved and looked at. You know, just 3.5 months worth of data here.
Yeah, the bills are done here in the office, and then they're sent to City Hall to the controllers also. Look through them through the controller's office and okay them. And
So, I was just going to say, we actually have 2 accounts. One is our operating account, the other one is our capital improvement. Operating is anything to do with operating the arena. Capital improvement account is any major projects or anything like that. So that's how we decide where we take our money from on what. So,
Okay.
that's all I have.
You actually talked about the bills. I was going to just touch base on that. I don't know if Bruce had any. Our treasurer was not reappointed. We have an open position to elect at some future time. That committee that is headed by the treasurer, we have a secondary person, which is Mr. Manor. I'm suggesting that we don't rush into putting a treasurer vote in yet, that Mr. Manor can handle. I believe, I haven't talked to him yet, but I thought you could handle this for a while.
since I've been out of commission for a while, I've asked Mary Ann to
Okay, I understand.
take care of that.
All right, between you, we'll get the communication to the rest of the board taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we do need approval of these 4 separate packets of bills that she passed out.
Well, again, I think
Now, again, there are only 4 of us that were here when we paid those, so there are only the 4 of us that needed.
That is correct.
Okay, good. All right, so do we have a motion to accept these four listings, the four listings of bills that we had?
I'll make a motion.
We got a motion to accept. We got a second from Mr. Haynes. Any questions from the three of you? Anything on there? No, we're hearing none. We'll take a vote. All those in favor of accepting the the bills as listed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Kim, I noticed something here that I didn't know if you wanted to talk about. It was the sailboat stuff.
Oh, right.
Did you want to do that? Let's give me a second here.
Here, do.
I've got it. I do. I just see it here. Yeah, let's go back and have Jim take a look at that.
Yeah, you'll notice in your packet there's a letter from the yacht club from Mr. Herb Philbrick, and it pretty much explains what they're looking for. But to summarize it, every year the yacht club runs a series of sailboat races that come in here to the wall. Normally we let them tie up on the wall for free because it's an organized event. We don't charge each racer that shows up. It's just a courtesy. Various ports do that around the lake. As part of that, then, they usually have a cookout or some kind of party back there in the pavilion behind the yacht club. Over the years, we've provided dumpsters or porta potties or security guards. So if you read through his thing, basically all he's asking for this year is a security guard. They've got the porta potties covered. I think they've got something lined up for dumpsters. So historically, we grant that. Since he's asking for the same stuff that we did last year, I'm okay with it. So I would recommend that we go ahead and approve. Now, the dates of the races may change. He talks about in the letter there that because of the coronavirus stuff, everything is still kind of tentative. But what they have scheduled right now is on that letter. There's one, I think, on August 8th. And then there's the big tri-state race, Labor Day weekend. And I would recommend we grant their request.
Mike, do you have anything to add on that?
I do not.
Okay.
Talking about the yacht club, just for the information of our new members here, the yacht club is now in the basement of the restaurant here. I don't know if you all knew that, but they occupy the basement. Eventually, they're hoping to buy the whole, not buy the whole building, but rent the whole building. We control that building. We have leased.
Yeah.
To let you know where the yacht club is.
Yeah, there's three fellows that are members of the yacht club that actually bought the building. The yacht club organization itself rents space from the three guys that own the building. Like Bruce said, they mainly operate out of the basement, but I believe they also have the room that used to be the bar. Yeah. Okay. We own everything right up to the building. So we own the deck, and we own part of the kitchen. Because they put an addition on the back some years ago, it actually encroached on us. I don't know how it ended up that way, but they have a long-term lease then that they lease the deck, they lease a row of parking right around the front, and they lease the area in the back for the pavilion. So that's our relationship. And that lease is with the three guys that own the building. And then they turn around and sublet to the yacht club and the fish camp.
And fish camp in this little shop here too. Base camp.
Yeah, fish camp runs base camp, but we rent the fish camp for the little store here because we own this building. It gets a little complicated sometimes.
All right. So we know that the yacht club is asking for essentially the same thing that they've asked for each year.
Right.
Any comments? Excuse me. And do I hear a motion to accept the proposal?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We got a motion to accept, and Amanda seconds. Any questions? Any other questions on this on the floor? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of accepting this motion as read, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Anything else? Mr. Haynes, claims and insurance?
I have no report.
All right. Port operations, personnel, and marina policy. That's under my name. I don't really have anything of any major that I could think of to talk about. I've thought about that over the last couple of days. The major points Tim's talked about. He and Bruce are going to talk about a project here in a few minutes. But I'll leave myself open for any questions that anybody has concerning operations. I ask all three of you particularly, don't be hesitant to speak up. There are no dumb questions. Seriously. All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Mr. Masita, Border Communications and Special Events, excuse me.
Probably should have a whole list of stuff, but I think I individually talked to operations people. We do have a dock rep meeting this Saturday. Every June, July, and August, the second Saturday of those 3 months, 10 o'clock in our conference room. And we have pretty much a representative.
It'll be outside there.
It'll be outside.
It's not big enough for...
Okay.
Probably here.
Okay. So that'll be this Saturday at 10 o'clock. We either one or two reps from each dock usually attend. Train Tim and Sam and myself and kind of update those people as to things that are going on, things that we'd like to see. We answer any questions they have, and we kind of expect or hope that they take the information we give them back to their dock. Then if somebody on the dock that's supposed to know that has a question or problem or situation, they should give it to their dock rep. If it can wait until the next meeting, that person brings it up to us. So we'll see what comes out of that, and I think the next board meeting we have, I'll be able to report the discussion there.
As far as the dock rep meeting Saturday, do we inform the reps that we know?
That's going to be done tonight or tomorrow morning.
Okay, done.
It's going to be done.
To be done. No problem. We're good heads. A question on that, I can't think. Give me a second. I know what it was. I try to attend that meeting just in the back row. I sit in the back just to kind of catch a flavor of what's going on. Sometimes those meetings, there'll be people in the audience and they'll bring up stuff that they've waited a month or so to bring up. Tim and Marianne encourage all slip holders. If you got something on your mind, call them, email. Don't wait. Don't wait necessarily for that Saturday morning meeting 3 times a year to talk about it, because they'll do their best to take care of whatever they got. So you might pass that on. That probably makes sense, but I did want to mention it. Bruce Manor, Master Planning, Special Projects, and Park Liaison.
Well, I have nothing for park liaisons since they haven't been meeting. They had one meeting, but it was nothing that concerned us at the special meeting. As far as master planning and special projects, we have some projects going on here right now.
Bruce, I'm having trouble hearing you, so I'm going to have to come over here and listen to you. You have a soft voice.
I can speak up. All right, I'll speak up.
If anybody else can't hear, we're about to get into some meat and potatoes here.
We've had some special projects going on here for quite some time, and we have continued with them. One of them is our redecking. We are redecking. We are in the process of this special project over time to redeck all of the slips and all of the walkways and everything. We've already completed some of them. Before I go any further, with the electrical is also going to be part of that redecking, because once you've got the decking off and everything, and we have to do a lot of renovating. Thank you. Of the slips out there, because as you know, with the high load situation that we had, it's kind of dangerous to have our electrical boxes underneath of these decks. So as a result of that, we're going to be moving the boxes up on top in a lot of places. And I'll let Tim get into the decking and the electrical part of it, all the meats and potatoes of it also. One of the other things that we have been looking at is putting a bathhouse in over at the Spread Point Marina. We now use a bathhouse over there that actually belongs to Blue Chip Casino. They allow us to use it. But the fact is, it's not even on our property. So we have to cross their property to get to it. We never know whether they're ever going to tear it down or whether they plan on using that property for something or whatever. So we thought it was very important that we look at possibly providing our own bathroom facilities for our boaters, of course. That's something that we've been looking at also. That's another project we've been looking at. As far as the new parking lot that we have here, that came into fruition because of the park board. The park board had their master plan all set up. They were going to do a whole lot of renovating down here. And a lot of their money came from the Economic Development Commission. And the Economic Development Commission had to cut back on some things because they've kind of overextended themselves in terms of money. So that's sort of been put on the back burner right now. But before it was put on the back burner, we negotiated with the park department and the city of Michigan City for more parking because the plan that they had was going to take away a lot of our parking for us. So we renegotiated some parking, that area that you see that as our new parking lot, and that was a project of the park board master plan. And hopefully they will revive that master plan, but we never know whether they're going to do that now or not. But we do have more parking as a result of it. So that's how we obtained that parking lot there for the use. And that parking lot is not strictly for boaters. It's also for the public too. So the public can use that parking lot also. So without further ado, I'll let Tim upgrade you on what's going on with the dock redecking and also the electrical upgrades. Tim?
Okay. So early last year, we redid the 300 dock. If you look right behind you, that is the wood that we used on the 300 dock. So at that time, we just redecked it. We took off the old wood, we put this new stuff down. This is called Kebony. It's actually southern yellow pine from the southern United States that gets shipped over to, I think, Norway. They treat it with some process using byproducts from sugarcane processing. But it supposedly makes this wood dimensionally stable, which means it won't warp, crack, split, twist, and they guarantee it for 30 years.
Not prorated.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a full guarantee. So it's on the expensive side, but the engineering consultants we used, they've used it a couple other marinas that they built and seemed to have good luck with it, so we went with it. So we did the 300 dock way late or early last year. Then last fall, over this past winter, we did this walkway all the way to the 100 dock, and we did the entire 200. Now, we didn't get into any electrical upgrades over here or on the 300 dock. We just primarily did the wood first, and the advantage to the way we did this, the old boards were carriage bolted down. So if you had to get under there to work on the electric, you basically had to cut a section out and splice it back in. With the carriage bolts, it made it real awkward. When we redid it, we put wooden stringers under there. This is all screwed down. So if you need to get at something, you just pop up the board you need, you do whatever, and you can screw them right back down. So that worked out pretty good. Now, the next project we're looking at is the 400, 500, and 600 dock. And the main reason is because of the water situation. It turns out that the main walkway on the 400, 500, and 600 docks are 8 inches lower than all the other docks here. So 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8 are all about the same elevation, but 4, 5, and 6 are 8 inches lower. So that electric supply is in the water. So far, it hasn't been a problem. We've had the electrician come down and scope it out a couple different times.
Yes.
And it does not appear to be leaking. The electrician's opinion was if anything does happen, it'll just short itself out and throw the breaker. So far that has not happened. Find some wood to knock on. But as part of that then, we thought while we're doing the redecking, we should upgrade that electric. So what we want to do is replace the power distribution for that whole side of the marina. So we'd start at the NIPSCO transformer. We'd put a new big distribution box right next to it. We'd feed down to a new distribution box for the 7 and 800 dock. And then we'd come off of that and feed out to the 4, 5, and 6. And we would use a, I guess they call it mining cable. It's rated for being submerged. Right now, the way it is, the cables run through a conduit and they hit a junction box, and then there's caps off that to go to the individual slips. Well, none of that is waterproof. So these mining cables would actually come up through the deck into an above the deck distribution box, kind of like how it is on the outer half of the 800 dock. There's 4 big panels out at the end of the 800 dock that the individual slips then have individual runs from that panel. So all your connections are well above the water level. So we want to do that same kind of thing on the 4, 5, and 600 dock. As part of that, we would be replacing your shore power box. So the shore power box would have GFI protection in it for the individual slips. And then there would also be GFI monitoring equipment in the various panels to protect the various lines running out. The other project we did last spring, we did upgrade what we could on the 800 dock.
That's nice.
So yeah, it's turned out pretty nice. We replaced all the shore power boxes with the newer one that has GFI stuff built into it, and we added a 15 or 20 amp regular receptacle in there that's also GFI. Because the water's so high, we couldn't do anything with the feeders running out there. And those 2 docks have a concrete deck, so it's really not practical to get under there, but we upgraded the surface stuff, and we upgraded those distribution panels on the outer half of the dock. So basically, the project Bruce is talking about is redecking 4, 5, and 6, and while we're doing that, rewiring 4, 5, and 6, and replacing the infrastructure. Now, Indiana is still on the 2008 electrical code. So none of what we're doing is really required by the current electrical code, but at any time, Indiana could vote to upgrade it to current. The stuff we're looking at would bring us, I believe, up to the 2017 electrical code. So that briefly, if you want more detail, in your packet you'll see like a drawing, a map showing what we're doing, and then there's also an engineer's estimate on the whole thing. And it's a big number, but it does include the decking, about half of it's decking, about half of it electric.
Are you raising the deck up?
No, we're not currently looking at raising the deck. We have talked about trying to do something with the sidewalk in front of the fish station, because it turns out that the sidewalk in front of the fish station area there is a foot lower than the 4, 5, and 600 docks. So that sidewalk's actually 18 inches lower than where we are right now.
Storm sewer?
The problem is the parking lot is also low, and so we end up getting water from both directions. If you're not getting it coming over the sidewalk, it's coming up behind you, coming up the storm drain. So we've tossed around what could we possibly do there, and haven't really settled on an answer that everybody kind of likes. So for the time being, so far this year we've gotten a little lucky. It has gotten wet there a couple times, but it hasn't consistently been up on the sidewalk. Of course, this year we ended up being 4 inches higher than we were last year. And last year we were 15 inches higher than we were the year before. So the question comes in, what's going to happen next year? The Corps tries to put out a 6-month forecast. I don't put a lot of weight on their forecast. Watching it over the winter, they were pretty much wrong every month. When they said it was going to go up, it went down, or it stayed the same. And when they said it was going to, it did the opposite of whatever they thought it was going to do.
Sort of like the weatherman.
Yeah. So basically, they really don't know. But if you have some thoughts on, we'd love to hear it. Because basically, you could raise the sidewalk or build a wall there, but then you'd also somehow have to deal with the parking lot. Because at that point, you're losing the sidewalk, but you're losing a big portion of your parking lot as well. Well, you see it even along the duck walk area, where it just comes back up the storm drain.
Even if you build a truck, you might get all the stuff dragged back in.
Right. And we talked about doing a wall of one kind or another, and then our fear was, okay, how do we deal with the water that gets trapped behind the wall? Are we just making a bigger mess, or are we better off just letting it come up on there and run back off? So that's kind of still to be determined.
Bruce?
I wanted to mention one other thing about the electrical situation here, and another reason why we're doing what we are doing with the electrical. Are any of our new members here familiar with ESD? ESD is what they call electrical shock therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but what that is, and it's been around for many, many, many years, but it's come to light over the last 4 or 5 years now, and it is something that is dangerous. If a boat is leaking electricity into the water, and somebody falls in that water there, it has to be a certain amount of electricity, of course. What it does to that person is it paralyzes. They can't move. And they just sink to the bottom and they drown. So that's another reason that we have the individual breakers now. Because if we have a leakage, we can tell you exactly where that leakage is.
And new style breakers.
Yes, the new style breakers that we have. So that's a good thing. I know, of course, your dad, and you know this too, when we have the cardboard boat race out there, we always shut off the power to the 700 and 800 power, because they say this leakage is only about, I think they say only about 100 feet away from where it's leaking. So to be on the safe side, we always shut off the power to the 700. So I wanted you folks to be aware of what ESD really was. It has a lot to do with some of the things we're doing.
Danny, you and I kicked this around, the fact that the water come up over the walkway. We kicked it around a little bit about a week ago when we had a cup of coffee together. I don't know, again, I'm not putting you on the spot, but you had some good questions at the time. I mentioned to Tim that we needed to address that in this meeting, which he has. I don't know if you had any more comments on that right now as to what to do. So
I do know that you put sandbags up around the power supply. So much good. Did you not think about putting them along the wall?
We did look at putting them along the wall, and then we thought the real problem spot is the 600 dock, because it ramps down to the sidewalk. So how do we seal off that area of that ramp to keep water from coming up and around the sandbags? And then we run into the same problem with, okay, you got the sandbags, water will infiltrate through the sandbag, but then how do you get it back out without creating a big puddle there that then gets slimy with algae the longer it sits there? But the 600 dock is the pickle. The other two, the 400 pretty much comes straight out onto the sidewalk. The 500 has a slight slope to it, but the 600 has a big slope to it. And we haven't come up with a good way of sealing that to keep water from just coming up through the board and coming around the sandbag. You can't very well run sandbags right across the entrance to the 600 dock. And if you build a ramp, then it's awkward to get your dock cart up and down and around. You can't just do stairs because of the dock cart. So it's worth thinking about, but that's been the tripping point at this point, is how to deal with that where it can come around. We ran into that problem here at the office. We sandbagged what we thought was sufficient, and April 30th, the water was so high during that storm, it came over the patio and came in behind us. So it came around the end, it came from the back, it washed all the way through the office. I mean, at some point, it's got a whole lot to do. But, yeah.
The voters that I had talked to questioned me on that why, and I get back to them and said, hey, you have said that you have to do a nice job, you're a good group, clean up after you.
Yeah. On the plus side, the latest core estimate, they put out a 30-day thing every Friday. And last Friday's 30 days, so getting you out into August, was they expect it to be the same height as it is now. So we probably topped out. Normally we top out in July, and then it declines all the way to December, January, and then it goes back up towards next July. And that's the seasonal up and down. And normally it's anywhere from 6 to 10 inches that you lose and then you gain. But occasionally, like last year, you get a big increase. You know, in December of 2012 and January of 13, we actually set a new record low. And then in the spring of 13, it went up 20 inches. In the spring of 14, it went up another 20. In 15, it went up another foot. And then 16, 17, 18, it pretty much acted like normal. Just, you know, what it lost, it gained back in the spring. But then last year, we gained 15. And then this year, we gained about 4. And the odd thing was, over the winter, it declined from last July to about the middle of September. But then instead of declining all the way to December, it leveled off. And it ran flat at the middle of September level all through the winter. So already at the end of April, the first part of May, we were at last year's June level. And in June, we were at last year's July level at the beginning of June. And now we're 4 inches higher than we were last July. But hopefully it won't get any higher between now and fall. So,
any other general comments on this subject? I've got a few things I want to touch base on as we continue with the subject, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to, you know, not get lost in their thoughts here. Okay. Obviously, we all saw this water problem building over the last year and a half or so, and we can't do major construction during the season. I mean, you can, but then you lose people, and then more people are upset than just with the water. So, actually, last October is the time frame that we asked Tim to get with our marine engineer friends up in St. Joe that do a lot of work for us and start working on a plan. Everything was addressed except the high water over the walkway, which was obviously, as you've heard today, we don't know what to really do. We know it's going to go down, but we're not sure about that. And so anything we do, we don't want to have that be negatively. We don't want to negatively impact taking care of that problem when we work on redecking and the electrical situation. Okay, so last October we started on that. About roughly 2 months ago, the engineers got back to Tim and I and Bruce looked at what they presented, and I think that's what we have here, and I'll talk about that in a second. And we couldn't have a meeting to discuss this, as usually what we would do. So I was a little concerned that only 3 people knew about this, and so with the open door policy, we can't make phone calls and update it, but we can't have 3 board members. So I flipped the coin, and John lost, and so Bruce sat down with Danny and explained as much detail as we knew, roughly 6 weeks ago, something like that. So Danny is a little up to date on that. Bruce John probably hadn't heard too much about it. He's in the dark, like you 3. Knowing that, we got the information back, which is what. Let's just take a look here. which is what is in your packet. And I'm not going to detail that anymore than I don't believe Tim is. But this is a schematic. It shows kind of stuff where we are planning to do stuff. Hopefully going to plan to do stuff on the 4, 5, and 6. And here are the pieces of the pie that go into that. And as you look, this does include the redecking for roughly $600,000. Total bill to include a 20% contingency fee, according to the estimate, comes to about $1.3 million. You'll see it. We can afford to do that. What I'm asking you people to do, and then about a month ago, the engineering people hadn't heard too much from us on where to proceed with this. Tim, I'm sure let them know that we can't do too much until we meet. Tim and I talked, and I authorized, don't know if it was proper or not, but I authorized the engineers to go ahead and work on the bidding process. Doesn't mean we've accepted anything, but to work on the bidding process. And we brought Bruce into that. Bruce was well aware of that as a special projects person. So they're working on the bidding process of this project. Just trying to think ahead of that. So that's where we stand, right?
Right.
Okay.
So probably the first part of August, I think, is the current target. We should have bids out and prices back. And at that point, then we can decide, yeah, we want to do it, or no, we don't want to do it, and you'll know what the actual cost is. The engineer's estimate is nice, but until you have a contractor actually bid it, you really don't know. It could be higher than this, it could be lower than this. And that's when you got to pick what you want to do.
So I'm asking, let me just finish. Don't forget what you say. I'm asking that everyone take a look at this stuff. You're going to have questions. Don't hesitate to call Tim. We'll explain things with more detail. And then when we meet next time, whenever we decide to do that, we'll talk about it some more. And we'll keep talking about this so that we're all happy or unhappy with what we're talking about. Does that make sense? Okay. Mr. Danny, you had a question? Yeah, I told you, remember what you said.
Just very Mr. Framer, the lead time on getting materials here.
Be about the same as last time. I would hope if we approve it, let's say we approve it in August, that they would start towards the end of October, just like we did last year with the 200 dock. And then they work on it over the winter. Depending on the weather, like this year, they finished the whole month ahead of time on the decking. Now this is a little bigger project because the electric is involved and it is weather dependent, but I think if we can get them started the end of October, first part of November, they shouldn't have any trouble knocking it all out by next season.
Or at least get to a spot where we can stop and still make it usable.
Right, but I don't think that'll be an issue. They move pretty fast.
This is a big project for us. We have a lot of projects, spend a lot of money for capital improvements, but not one quite this big. So think about this, and when we meet again, we'll talk some more about it. If we have more, as we have more information, we'll communicate it to you. Anybody else on this subject? Tim, anything else on there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. We have an open position on advertising and public relations committee head, and I'll work on that, assigning somebody. If anybody has any background or expertise or desire to be a lead board member on advertising and public relations, you're on.
My degree is marketing, minors in analytics and finance, and I'm the vice president of economics club in high school. So
Okay.
I got some things I can help with that.
Okay. The particulars, if they will apply to the Port Authority, work with Mary Ann.
Yeah, wonderful.
Do you have a report for us tonight?
What? I didn't come that prepared. I just printed off the things. I thought I was doing good with this.
Okay. We'll set you up with a backup also. We probably have one, and I don't know who that is right now. Is that okay, Dan?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Danny is your secondary committee member. Moving on, attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. You may recall last year we filed 3 lawsuits against former customers who had left us with unpaid bills. One of them settled up with us after being served with a complaint. One of them we could not locate an address for service, and so we ended up dismissing that suit. The third one, we secured a default judgment against it. In Indiana, when you get a default judgment, it operates as a lien against any real or personal property in the county. Well, this gentleman had a piece of property that he wanted to sell. Our lien was recorded, and so when he sold this piece of property, we got paid. We recovered $2,603.82, which was the full amount that the gentleman owed to the Port Authority and the attorney's fees. So we were fully recovered on that. Another item is generally around February or March, we try to get the report out on the policies and procedures regarding our internal controls. For the new members, a couple of years ago, the State Board of Accounts, through legislation, convinced the legislature to mandate that bodies such as the Port Authority here have a committee set up and a body that is charged with examining the internal controls and the policies and procedures to ensure that we do not become the victims of fraud, whether it's internal fraud or external fraud. And so the prior board established what we call the Loss Prevention Committee. And as I mentioned, we generally in February or March try to get a report out on the internal controls, our policies, our procedures, and any externalities that may have changed that would require board attention. Well, the COVID-19 virus decided to intervene, and so we haven't been able to meet. We lost one of our members on the loss prevention. So what I'd like to do is when the president has an opportunity to perhaps fill that committee slot, then I would get together and meet with the other committee members, the president, of course, being one of those members, and then meet with management to put together the report that will go to the board. And as I mentioned, what we do is we look at our internal controls to make sure that the controls we have in place are sufficient to identify fraud, make sure that if we do identify fraud, it's brought to the board's attention if the amount is sufficiently high, and we address that and make sure that we put changes or other procedures in place to make sure we do not become victims of fraud again. Finally, I received a very warm letter from a former board member and past board president, Sam Johns, thanking the board and the Port Authority for the many years he was allowed to serve on the board. I made copies of that letter so that I could hand them out to everybody here today, and as I was running out to make this meeting, I neglected to grab it. What I will do though is I'll scan that and then email it to everyone. It's a wonderful letter from a wonderful, wonderful man, Sam Johns, who served many years on this board. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, we lost a good member. Spent a lot of time here. They've done a lot of things, and he just wasn't reappointed. The way things are. So we'll miss him. He was a good man. Really helped us all out. I see no new business, but I see a piece on old business on here that I didn't realize we had on there about fire improvements. So I apologize. I haven't asked you for an update on that. It's a fire improvement.
Yeah, we met with the fire department. They looked over their current procedures, and at the moment they're satisfied with how things are. We have a box like this. I believe there's 3 of them around the marina. They pre-stage hose and nozzles and stuff in there. So if there ever were, say, a fire on this dock or the next one over, they would pull up here, pull that hose down, and deal with it. And every so often, well, every spring they come through and inspect all the hose, replace any of it that has timed out or has an issue. And at the moment, they're satisfied with the system there. So,
I've heard a rumor that there might have been a fire in the 800 dock on a boat a few weeks ago or something. You know anything about that?
well, we did have a boat on the 300 dock that came in with an engine fire, and that was dealt with. He's currently dealing with insurance. It didn't go any further than his engine compartment. Over the weekend, we had, I'm not sure if it actually was flaming or not, but a boat on the 800 dock that has a bow thruster, for some reason the bow thruster would not shut off and was overheating, and the cabling to it was smoldering or smoking. The fire department responded to that, but I didn't see any flames or any smoke. They did whatever, we got it disconnected, and the fire department seemed satisfied with it. But I don't think it actually, I don't think any flames actually came off of it. I could be wrong on that, but it didn't sound like it when the fire department was there.
Okay. Mike, I didn't address you earlier. I don't believe that you had any comments for us. Do you have anything else? I did. All right. So you've had your chance. Take a motion. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You know I don't hear very well.
That's okay. Maybe you can hear me.
Why don't you introduce yourself to the
I'm
people?
Mike Cooper. I am leader of the Education Foundation and the sailing instruction program here in Michigan City. Last year, we put roughly 100 children through and 16 adults through our training programs. This year, due to COVID, we didn't know exactly how we were going to handle it. There's a great deal of in-depth study of this stuff. We are able to hold it this year. That we've cut our enrollment approximately in half for the students, the junior students. The size of the boats that they are on kind of restrict what they can do. Both with the latest doing some research right now, the latest releases from our governor, we're hoping to add a couple more students with each of the last 4 sections. And with that, we're going to have a very successful year. Financial challenge, of course, to operate with reduced income, but we're able to secure a loan, and I think that's going to help us bring moved all of our classes out of the lower level of the yacht club to the system study down here. Hopefully some of that is being addressed and getting taken care of. Discover a few things about it. The yacht club itself also is like the lower level of the building over there. Occupy what we call the yacht club room upstairs, the old bar area. We have seating for about 55 members in there. All of the food services come through Michigan. We know we don't know how to run a restaurant. We do that over and over. And that's about what I have. If you have any questions on what's going on, you have to answer them. They're very kind and helping us with stories from our books, with our support books, and the other crafts. We're trying to upgrade our equipment from copies we had before, and also purchased 3 additional 3 having 3 14-foot boats for program of the adults. We have increased our exposure to certified instructors this folks going through that program right now. Some of that also is delayed a bit by the COVID situation that we face. All in all, we're going to have a great year. We got folks begging to get in, unfortunately, slow down.
Great.
Any questions?
Kind of quick, maybe just a comment so we all know. We, the board of directors for the Board of Authority, do have a line item for a donation towards the junior sales program. I believe that comes next second meeting in June, July.
This month, yeah.
This month, the donation will be coming through.
I express my gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Mike's here all the time. He's been a marina. He loves the water in the marina, like a lot of us here. Spend a lot of time here. I don't have anything else unless there are any questions. I will ask for a motion for adjournment. We have a motion to adjourn. We have a second. We got a second. We're adjourned. Next meeting 2 weeks from today on July 20th, same time, 5 o'clock. We're always open for ideas to maybe to meet differently or so if we need to. Yeah, we're all just in the same boat together, guys. Appreciate you all coming out and have a good week. Don't hesitate to call.